Hello everyone, this is Aqua here, also known as Mike, and welcome to yet another Calamity mod video. This one, though, is quite a bit different than what I usually do about Calamity mods, so I hope you enjoy. On a side note, I'd like to thank you guys for getting this channel to 2,000 subscribers. I'm really thankful for that, and I'd just like to thank everyone for their continued support of this channel with whatever the hell I want to do. People tend to like it enough they just feel like subscribing. And yeah, just thank you. Now, we can move on to the video now. So this time, we're gonna be, as you've probably seen kind of with the title, using a bit of a cheese method for Supreme Calamitas. Now, Supreme Calamitas is infamous as one of the final bosses in Calamity for posing quite a threat to players, and it leaves a major difficulty spike kind of at the end for people who are not familiar with dodging bullet hells. It's basically the same difficulty as the XMX, but it tests a different part of your skills, which is intricately dodging these bullet hells, right? But what if we didn't? What if, due to some recent changes, we were just able to completely avoid all of it? And that's why I bring you this video today. I was messing with so many different minecart contraptions, like if you loop 5 times, then you do one big loop, and then you come back in, and you loop another 5 times, or another one where you go all the way across the world, and you loop back, and it's just a bunch of jagged lines, and both of them ended horribly. I would just die. And I just had the wonderful idea of just keeping it simple, and just building a very simple diamond loop. And that turned out to work the best, so there we go. If you want to do this completely automated, it is technically possible, but I much prefer to just intervene a little bit, use adrenaline, slow down the minecart sometimes, and speed up the fight like tenfold. Yeah, it helps a bit, just keeping me sane. But yeah, as you can see in the background, I've been like setting up this minecart track, just tested it a few times, and just cranked on death mode, turned off god mode, and set it going. So what's the strat here? There really isn't much at all. It is quite literally just a very big diamond-shaped loop track, and you just use the cart of the gods, whatever. It was a recently added minecart, like a Patreon item or something. It's like the Devour of Gods, but a minecart, and it's noticeably faster than a mechanical minecart, which was also nerfed in 1.5. So this just goes faster. It goes 112 miles per hour as well, which is pretty good. Aside from having almost no strategy at all, I'd like to bring up a few things that I did do. So, if I'd built up adrenaline, which I pretty much always did, I would often slow down in the tracks and wait for Escal to catch up with me. I'd then enter the arena, and then move at a slow pace and use adrenaline. I would basically just like almost never get hit still, and then I would get massive burst damage with that adrenaline and my minions, and I think that's a good price to pay, to just have to pay attention like every minute or so. Like, this thing's already pretty brain dead, so I think taking a minute every so often is more than worth it than holding your computer hostage for a few hours. Another thing about my buffs, really a lot of them you don't really need, but the ones I'd absolutely recommend are Cadence, Endurance, Moonshine, maybe Draconic Elixir if you want the Silva heal, the Damaging Potion, not the one that gives you crit because I'm using Summoner, but the one that gives you damage. And Titan Scale Potion also gives you damage reduction and defense, which a lot of people tend to forget. Also my accessories, of course, I've basically not spec'd into mobility at all. It's just mostly tank and a little bit of mixed in damage here and there. Obviously, we have Nucleogenesis, the staple summoner accessory. We have Godly Soul Artifact, which the equivalent of these take 1 less minion to summon. That took way too long for me to explain. Next up, we got one that I usually don't use, but Nebulous Core. It's basically just the old God Slayer revive in an item, and it also just gives you a small damage bonus. It's just a nice, you know, security thing, just in case I end up taking a few hits in a row, then this will save me. Although I never end up using it in the video. After that, you got simple things like the sponge, just a overall tank stat stick accessory, affliction, another just overall stat stick, gives you defense and attack. The status void sash, this is basically just a free hit every 90 seconds that doesn't get rid of your adrenaline. It's very, very useful. It helps just overall survivability because with this specific cheese strategy, I am hardly getting hit. I'm taking a hit like, I don't know, maybe every 50 seconds. Yeah, so basically taking the damage that I take and cutting it in half, pretty useful. And finally we have just a little cherry on top, Blood Flare Core. This thing is heavily underrated. I might make a video on it later, but just know that this thing is very good if you're not being hit consecutively very often at all. And one final thing, while the Drunk Princess candles, you don't need all of them, one thing I would highly recommend is at least the regeneration candle. It is very useful and people sleep on it constantly. I don't know why, but this thing it's super useful. You should always have this in your boss arenas. Never skip out on it. But yeah, that's all about the general strategy. You have Orc Tesla armor as well, because obviously it's the best armor in the game, basically. And it gives you also Silver Revive, which if you die, then you get invincibility for 10 seconds and you stay at 1 health, but that turns into half health because of Draconic Elixir. So, yeah. Just know, Silver Revive, nice to have. Super backup plan if Nebulous Core also doesn't save you. But yes, that should be all the strategy that I kind of use for this. I spent way more time than I should have creating alternate strategies to this because I wanted to make something more interesting. It turned out that the easiest option to make was also just the best. So, there you go. A few other things to note. For some reason, the brothers and the seekers, some of the minions that Eskel summons, they don't become invincible when you go outside of the arena, unlike Eskel, so that made the fight much faster and easier, I guess, though it was already pretty easy. Yeah, I just made it overall faster, and I'm surprised that this happens. It's probably not intentional, might report it. But yeah, without further ado, let the little montage commence. There you have it, that's Death Supreme Calamitas just destroyed with a minecart loop and a few dragon minions. Now, a quick question you may have is, does it work on Malice? In fact, yes it does. And not only does it work on Malice, but it works better? For some reason, Supreme Calamitas, while normally when you enrage them, they become invincible. However, Supreme Calamitas, like other Malice bosses, when you have Malice mode on, they are permanently enraged, and I guess because they are permanently enraged, they can never get beyond that, right? They can't stack a second enrage on top of that. So this means that there's no punishment for going outside the arena, really. They just are still vulnerable. They never go invincible for some reason. And that's definitely something I'll be reporting, but feel free to abuse it while you can, because Calamity Mod 1.4 still got a little bit of a ways before it comes out, but it's coming soon. I'll just show a quick time-lapse of my wonderful Malice mode kill. I was honestly very shocked to find out that they were taking damage. It was very funny. And in fact, I think most of the bullet hells are kind of easier because the faster projectiles meant that they also traveled a further distance before they became tangible, right? You don't see it much in the Eskel fight in single player when you're doing this fight normally, but when the bullets spawn, they don't deal damage for split seconds, so they don't do cheap hits in multiplayer, for example. But we kind of abuse this in the minecart because we're moving so fast that we're pretty much moving through the projectiles as they're fading in. and they just never damage us. It's very rare. It can happen if they spawn on the perfect spot, but like I said, it's not often enough where it happens like every 50 seconds or so, and we can just tank that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this sort of cheese video. If for some reason you want to abuse this in your playthroughs, I guess feel free to. It's a sandbox game. I'm not going to police that, but this is more so of a just a novelty thing to show to people that this is possible, and it's probably not going to be allowed for much longer, so enjoy while you can. But that is all I have for today, so see you next video, whenever that is. Take care. Bye bye.